And a 1 and a 2 and a 1, 2, 3. Anita.
Yes, Mel.
I kind of hate almost everybody right now.
I know. I'm so sorry, Mel.
And it's
I don't know what
perfect
to
though.
tell you. Okay,
I
why?
know what we can do. We can talk about it.
Let's do
Because
it.
I am not
Okay,
the only one that deals with this.
tell me.
We are going to be talking about creepers.
And not like the creepers in Minecraft that my kids are always telling me about.
Not like millipedes that are just like creepy crawlies on the
Cock, cock,
ground.
cockroaches. I said that 5 times, but
All
kind
of,
of.
well, all of these things that we're talking about are better than actual creepers.
Yeah. So, do you want to tell us why this is on your mind, Mel? Just a short version?
Well, I did have an experience at a recording session recently where it was found out by somebody on the gig that I was a widow, and immediately this person started becoming very gross and saying inappropriate things and acting strangely and inviting me to live with him. Yes. And not only that, and I know that people that listen to our show, it's on episode 94 in the first little blah blah section. I know people in the Widow Wives Club and that listen to our podcast know about that story, which is pretty funny, although very disturbing. But not only did that happen, 3 days later, I was at another gig, one of the ones that I deemed safe for myself, but there were new people on the gig, and I had a similar experience. This time, the person told me that they were engaged to a widow and then proceeded to tell me their entire life story, which involved basically a lot of the topics that I have learned about from true crime TV. So I don't really think that it was the best week. But I think it's so interesting because I only left the house to go do work outside the house 3 times that week. And 2 out of the 3 times there was a predator there. So, high rate of grossness.
Why? Why? Why do people, okay, I guess that there's creepy people in general in the world, but why do the creepy people think that widows are the ones that they want to target?
I think they know that they're vulnerable. They
Oh.
probably think that they're rich. Somebody said that to me
Mm-hmm.
that knew nothing of my story. Spoiler alert, definitely not rich.
Opposites of rich.
I think that they know that they have sustained a loss, and that's basically the MO for predatory behavior is they find people that they know are weak that are more willing to go along with what they want them to do. So yeah, there's a lot of personalities out there like that. I unfortunately am no stranger to them because I was single for a much longer time than you were. So Anita, you're lucky
It's
because you got married at 19 and you stayed married and you didn't have to deal with any of this.
I
Now,
know.
those people who are our age who have gone into the dating pool, they know that it's not always the greatest of pickings for people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and up.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get lucky and you find the right person for you, but sometimes it is like the worst thing of all time. When Scott died, I was just like, you're kidding me. I thought I was done with this nonsense. And what I've noticed is, and I noticed this before I became a widow, it's almost like with certain personalities, and I'm speaking from my experience of dating men, for a certain type of man that is a certain mentality or maybe is freshly divorced and is needy or has just gotten out of a relationship, there's a certain my spidey senses go off because I've had enough experience being around these people to kind of know how they operate. Not all of them. I know this is hard to not put under a blanket statement,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
know the type. And one of the people that I encountered over the last weekend in my one of 2 creeper experiences definitely fit this. My whole spidey senses were going off, and it was like, yep, there it is. Checklist, red flag, red flag, red flag. Like I was just seeing red flags everywhere. And there's a lot going on there. And there are things we could talk about, like codependency issues. When people who are codependent look to other people to fill their needs, they find personalities and look for those personalities so that they can then enable them. So it's kind of this symbiotic relationship of unhealthy toxicity. And as far as widows and everything goes, I don't think I think people underestimate how badass widows can be.
Yeah.
Because I know that I went through a lot before I became a widow, and thank goodness that I learned a lot of things and have continually been learning a lot of things in widowhood, because I feel like I'm more prepared, even though it's still hard to speak up sometimes depending on the situation. I'm more prepared to just not care. Like, I cared less about their feelings before. Maybe I know a lot of women are people pleasers and they don't want somebody to feel bad. And so this is what I was going to say earlier is I've found that you can't really be your true self with a certain type of personality because they take it wrong.
Mm.
It's so weird. And I've had this happen time and time again where and now I work with a lot of men. I'm usually one of maybe two girls or the only girl. And so when you get somebody that's talking about an area of expertise that they know as well and you're fluent in that, they can misrepresent that and take it as, oh, she's into me because she's talking to me about this stuff. And so you almost have to shut yourself down because people will take it wrong if they're a certain type of person. It's hard. It's been frustrating for a lot of my adult life. It's just like, okay, so what's the golden rule? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I would like to add a caveat. Unless it comes to dating somebody that is a narcissist or has other issues, like being
so hard.
predatory, it doesn't work the same way. And
Yeah.
we know a lot of our widows have gotten scam emails or gross people on the internet, on like Instagram and stuff. And
Yeah, that's mostly what I've experienced is people sending messages on the internet. And we talked about this when we presented at Camp Widow, was that widows have this not definition, but expectation globally that a widow is vulnerable and a widow is weak and a widow is desperate and a widow is an easy mark. And we talked about how when we embrace the word widow and we show that that's not the truth, that hopefully at some point in time, people will come to understand what you were saying about widows being super strong and smart and not idiots and, not willing to put up with all of those shenanigans. And if we all do that and we're like, yes, I'm a widow and I'm not falling for your creepy scamminess, then at some point in time, maybe that global definition will begin to change and people won't expect that just because you're a widow, I can lead you along however I want to lead you along and take advantage of you in whatever way that is. Now, that's not to say that there is some truth to the fact that we are in a more vulnerable situation because our life has been turned upside down and we're dealing with widow brain and all of these different things. So it's not to say that we just like cast it off and say, oh, there's no danger. There still is danger and we still have to really take those things seriously. But like, we need to stick it to the creepers and be like, no, we're not here for that. We're not.
I really want you to have a creeper experience just so we can talk about it.
I've had lots of creeper experiences at work, but not directly related to my widowhood status. Just like gross people.
Yeah, it's so strange. Also, I mean, whoever thought that it was a good idea to be driving by in a car and you whistle out the window to girls thinking that they like that?
Yeah.
There's just
I know,
there's a whole
like
lot
a whole
things.
society issue.
Yeah, there are societal issues, and then with regard to widowhood, we are definitely in a maybe more prone category to think that we are weak. But I like what you said on how talking about the word widow and what society thinks of us as, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are weak. Yes, we have widow brain. Yes, there are times where people could maybe be a little bit sketchy and try to get money from us for something that they think that we will think that we need. So
Yeah.
it's important to be able to be on the lookout for things like that. But I think widows are strong. I think they are the strongest people on the planet. I know in the
For
early
sure.
days of widowhood, people that are widows are like, don't call me strong. I think it's a compliment because I'm like, hell yeah, I'm strong. I earned this strength. I earned being able to learn how to do this. Like, it's a whole journey, and whatever you think of the word strong, it's cool. Like, you can frame it some other way. But it's true. I read something on a fellow widow's Instagram, and I can't remember word for word what it was, but basically it was something like men who choose to date widows should be thankful, or they're the luckiest guys on the planet, because widows have learned to do everything for themselves. They're not dating you because they're needy. They're dating you because they want to. And so I think in widowhood, as we go along and we learn, we're rebuilding, we are able to look at what we might have chosen before widowhood and either decide to keep those ways of operating or we change them. So widows are amazing, y'all.
So I had a friend who posted a question after becoming a widow. She had had several, she was dating again. She'd had several kind of abusive, semi-abusive relationships. And she was kind of questioning her own judgment. She was questioning why that was happening. And somebody brought up a point that I thought was, it's kind of a tricky point, but I think it has some basis in reality. And that is that when you're dating at a later age, you're more likely to find people who have baggage, you know. So for a lot of times there's a reason that that person might be single. You know, they have been in a relationship, they've been thrown to the curb. And this is not always the case. Of course, there are single people who are, you know, in their older years who are totally amazing, awesome, non-abusive, you know, normal, great people. But I do think that as you get higher up in those age categories, you will run into people who have some weirder tendencies than maybe you would when you were dating in your college age years. Do you think that's true or false?
This is such an interesting question because I know that that's what I've observed in my
Yeah.
time, and a lot of my friends are single still, and they tell me the horror stories of dating, and then if they're divorced and now dating, they're just like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So yeah, I think that's kind of always been a general consensus. I don't know why though.
Yeah. I don't know either. We just hear so many crazy stories of the people that are, you know, that are like trying to get matched with you on dating apps and things like that. And it's just like, what? No, 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 no. You know, and it's just like there's just so many strange people in the world. And why?
And I
And go
think
away.
I know. And I think too, I know with some of my friends, they've been on a dating app before, and depending on what the app is, actually I've seen them on some pretty quote conservative ones, and they're still getting like naked pics from
Ah,
randos. So I don't know. I know that some men and women really have a need to be validated based on their body. I know some people are on these apps. I know we're not exclusively talking about dating, but like that's where a lot of the creeping situations happen.
right.
A lot of people find their value in what people give back to them as far as their physique. A lot of people are in there just for a hookup, and so you have to sift through, and it's hard to find people. And luck, when people find a person that clicks with them and they are an honest person that and it's a good relationship, it's like the most precious thing of all time and space. So
And it does happen. I mean, we
it
hear about
totally
it happening
does.
all the time, but I feel like there's a lot of sifting for a lot of people to get to that point, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
those things before that. So in that same vein, once I had a guy, this is not necessarily a creeper situation, but kind of lends to what we're talking about. I had a friend and he was like, hey, have you ever started dating yet? And I'm like, no. And he goes, well, I know this guy, you could date him. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, he just got divorced. He's got 3 kids. He's an alcoholic. And I'm like, why? 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 You know, like if they're alive, I'm alive.
3
I don't
kids,
know.
4 kids.
Yeah, we're a perfect
Alcoholic.
match. Oh,
He's
by
like,
the way,
oh,
yeah, he's an alcoholic.
he's like, Anita can help him.
No, I can't help you. Help yourself. There's a reason you got divorced, because your relationship wasn't working because you're an alcoholic. It's just like, and of course, we should not define somebody by, one thing like that. But just the fact that he wanted me to date somebody. And oh, by the way, it's just like, that's so weird.
He was like constructing a mental Venn diagram with you and him.
Yes. Yes.
Like, oh, look, here's
Single,
in the middle. They're alive.
alive, children, match made in heaven. Oh.
So let's talk about some tips. Here's the thing too. Like we have in widowhood, it was not our fault that we became widows, unless you're a murderer. And in that case, you're not listening to this podcast. You are in prison.
Maybe they have podcasts in prison. You don't know.
Or you're listening to the podcast from prison. Hey, we'd love to talk to you. I'm just kidding. So, like widowhood was thrust upon us, we find that a lot of the work falls to us to build our new life, claw our way out, figure it out. Unfortunately, with learning how to deal with humanity again, we do have a big responsibility. And it's not our fault that somebody's a creeper. It's not our fault we went to the store and then a creeper was right there. These things are not our fault. And it's important that we first recognize that that is not our fault, that somebody's behavior is what it is. 100% their responsibility.
Even if we're on a dating site and we're trying to find somebody and we find a creeper, also not our fault.
Not your fault. Number 2, give yourself respect and treat whatever relationship it is that you are in or considering time and space. It's easy to get roped into things that feel like they're super fast and everything's amazing and perfect. That is dopamine in your brain.
Feels good.
People that are creepers know how to read facial expressions, body language. They know how to have conversation. They are experts at mimicking emotional intelligence. Did you know that?
I know. I just want to hide under my bed now.
Yes. So again, if you get creeped on, not your fault. A lot of times you're just a nice person and you might have been being kind to somebody who then is like, I'm going to suck their soul.
They're like the dementors of people.
Yes. Number 3, work on gaining confidence in yourself, that when you are presented with these situations, you can say no. No is a complete sentence. You can walk away and not feel like you did something wrong because they brought a creepy situation into you or they said things that were inappropriate. It's okay to walk away. You don't have to please everybody. Those are my tips. And you know what? It might shut that creeper down and you might find another creeper eventually later, but it's an ongoing thing. It's just the world we live in, and we hope that you do not encounter any of them. So far, they're all coming to me.
No, I just want to say, like from Dora the Explorer, swiper, no swiping. Creepers, no creeping. Creepers, yes. No creeping. It can be our mantra.
Actually, you want to know what I've been working on? Because I find that I get so frozen. You know how they say there's fight, flight, or freeze?
Mm-hmm.
Totally a freezer. So what I've been working on is, okay, now that I've had some scenarios in the last little while where they're presenting themselves to me, and I guess I don't know if it's because I'm healing a little bit more, and so I'm showing more of my actual self. Maybe I'm being less shut down in the world. Some of these things are coming around again. Now I'm able to think through scenarios first, and there's a certain point to where you can't predict the situation you're going to be in, but I'm practicing several sentences over and over in my mind so that when those times come and I need to say something to somebody to shut them down, that I'm confident in what I'm saying and that it comes out clean and that it comes out strong and that I can say those things with strength.
Like what? Tell me one of those sentences. Practice.
Okay. No. But then I can't laugh. See? Because I laugh all the time.
Okay, try again.
I do not appreciate this conversation. We are done. There's one. Did you like it?
Good job. No, I did. I was showing my reaction.
Okay. Ask me a question like that happened at my gig if I want to come live with you.
Hey, you should come live with me.
No, that's inappropriate. We're done.
I'm not supposed to laugh either. I'm
I
supposed
know
to be.
it's so hard to practice.
Yeah. That's a hard thing is because I like to make everything a joke too, because we're trying to soften the blow and make it seem like we're not like mean people. And so we have to like, you know.
It's true. And also, I know that part of me kind of dissociates and I'm seeing that it is funny. Like, I can't believe this. I can't wait to go tell the Widow Wives Club. Also, then I'm actually in the situation where it's like, really?
Ugh. You guys have your own backs. You are worth your weight in rubies and diamonds and gold nuggets.
And silver and gold.
So don't let the creepers creep on you. Be confident, shut them down, go forth.
Walk away. It's okay to leave.
Absolutely.
They do not need to like you. It's okay if they are offended by you. Yes, you absolutely have your own back, like Anita said. Repeat that in your head on the daily. I have my own back. You know that you do because you're a widow and you've been doing it this far. And look at all of the things that you have come through so far. So you got this. If you have an amazing creeper story or a creeper shut down story, comment below or comment in the Widow Wives Club where it's extra private and we can make fun of them.
Speaking of the Widow Wives Club, come join us in the Widow Wives Club if you happen to be a widow, widower, or someone who has sustained partner loss, no matter your orientation or marital status. I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
We're two young widows. One of us gets creeped on more than the other, and we're trying to figure out widow, what do you do now?
I know what we do. We have our own backs.
That is amen.